The Supreme Court, sitting in for the Constitutional Council, is due to begin ruling on 72 petitions filed in by some political parties or disgruntled politicians whose files of nominated candidates were rejected by Elections Management Body (ELECAM), and also some party officials say that the September 30th twin elections in the country should simply be cancelled. That is, of course, the view of the PAP of Ayapola Bine, which is accusing ELECAM for violating the Electoral Code. And also tonight, Education is react on the new method for the verification of GCE results. Is it an advantage or a fiasco as described by some school officials? We'll get their reactions in the second part of this newscast. Good evening to you viewers. Welcome back from the weekend. You are watching the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinox Television. We begin right away in politics. 72 petitions have so far been submitted to the Supreme Court, sitting in for the Constitutional Council by disgruntled or by some grumbling politicians whose files of nominated candidates were rejected by Elections Cameroon, and as parties whose list of nominated candidates await the results from the Supreme Court, and others brazen up to challenge ELECAM for rejecting their files, that is, those that are vying for posts in the upcoming municipal elections bid for the 30th of September 2013. Some party officials are demanding the total cancellation of the twin elections bid for the 30th of September. The PAP in a statement is accusing ELECAM for violating articles in the Electoral Code. And officials of the party also claim that the submission of nominated papers few hours to the deadline, that is the July 17 midnight deadline that was fixed by the elections governing body ELECAM, made it impossible for ELECAM to register all the various parties as stipulated by the law. Meantime, some party officials, particularly the NUDP, the CRM of Professor Maurice Kamto, CDU, have called on the Supreme Court to disqualify the nomination papers of some CPDM candidates. They are also demanding the reinstatement of some rejected list by ELECAM. That was on August 1st, 2013. In another story, over 300 lawyers of the Cameroon Bar Association have been shortlisted for suspension and dismissal for indiscipline and refusal to pay statutory dues of the association. The decision came after a meeting of the Bar Council held over the weekend in Yaoundé Central region of Cameroon. According to sources, lack of professional proficiency in the handling of cases, disrespect of bar organs, lack of respect of professional ethics, refusal to pay dues, amongst other things, are the reasons for their being disbarred. Reports indicate that the list containing the names and offenses of the disbarred and suspended lawyers will be published in the days ahead. Some school officials here in the economic capital Douala have described the method introduced by the GCE board for the verification of results as a total failure. This is after scores of students failed to have access to their results barely days after the General Certificate of Education Board released them. For Hansen Chanji, a reporter tells us in the report which comes up next that a student he met today in the economic capital Douala only had his results 5 days after they were made public.
Since the announcement of the release of the 2013 GCE result on July 31, some students are yet to know whether they've made it or not. Some candidates said they text several times to 8070 but did not get a feedback. One of such candidates is Daniel Obasi of Government Bilingual High School Deido in Douala, who is receiving his result 5 days after the release.
Many people have been complaining that when they send it, it comes after 12 hours, 13 hours, more hours. But when I send mine, did not go. The phone just told me that it failed. It's today that I know my results.
There have been wide criticism on how the GC board has failed, with educationists hitting hard on the issue.
I think that was a weakness. You know, the fact that students registered, they have a right to their results. And as quick as possible. We know how itchy parents and students are at this time of the year. We want to think that that was a weakness.
Meanwhile, the GC board registrar had advanced that the move was a supplementary measure to ease candidate accessibility to the result and to reduce movement and accidents. This has also been debunked.
Unlike other years that they published the results in newspapers and did send to the liaison office and even send it on the internet, close to 70,000 students wrote both O levels and advanced level. Imagine how itchy 70,000 students are at the same time sending messages.
The vice principal of Government Bilongo High School, Deido, says it has been the best method ever.
Even in the case of newspapers were not available in the villages. The noise about the innovation is, I don't buy that idea. We should learn to move with time.
The temperature that accompanied the release of the result this year was high, but finally went low, as some students tried in vain to get the result. The usual effervescence went comatose.
Educationists are reacting on the new method for the verification of GCE result introduced by the GCE board. We get to talk more on that in the second part of this newscast. And just to add that efforts to get officials of the General Certificate of Education Board to react on the situation were abortive. In another story, a drop in the supply of antiretroviral drugs in hospitals across the country has been blamed on the steady rise in the number of persons living with HIV and AIDS, without a corresponding increase on the available funds in the country. Facts and figures from the Public Health Ministry have proven that 120,000 HIV patients in Cameroon are now being placed on free treatment, contrary to just 28,000 persons that existed in 2007. Minister Andre Mamafuda told a press conference in Yaoundé Central region of Cameroon today that the head of state has ordered for the disbursement of 5 billion francs CFA for the purchase of antiretroviral drugs. He also added that international partners have pledged to assist the government with some 5.2 billion francs CFA to help resolve the situation. Let's get the reaction of the Cameroon Minister of Public Health, Andre Mamafuda. We are having indications that we shall be having the excerpt of Cameroon's Minister of Public Health, Andre Mamafuda, in our subsequent newscast. Viewers, that does it for this segment of the news. Up next is Talking Point. The method introduced by the General Certificate of Education Board is still giving candidates and parents alike sleepless nights. Scores of students have still not been able to have access to their results as a result of the new method, as I earlier indicated, introduced by the GCE board for the verification of their results. As we followed in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast, we followed a report by Forhansen Chanji, who introduced us a student who only got to half his results, that was today. Tonight, to clarify us on the advantages as well as the disadvantages on the new method, we have two educationists on our set tonight. Good evening, Professor Ngube Samuel, and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Good evening, Mimi, and thank you for inviting me once more.
Yeah, of course, an educationist, and also tonight we have one of our guests who is also an education administrator. Good evening to you, Mr. Bobga Julius, and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Good evening. It's a pleasure for me to be invited here.
The pleasure is ours as well. We'll begin by finding out from you your reaction on the new method for the verification of results, GCE results, specifically introduced by the GCE board.
Well, I think that even though we talk of innovations and changes following the new trend of events in the world now, not all changes are very positive. To my own opinion, I don't see what they have done to be very positive, because to consider it first, I don't believe that MTN is a media house, and so they don't have any right to publish public informations. They deal with their telephone. It is a telephone company. It is not a print or a voice media. The second thing is that if I hear other administrators saying that in those days when they were publishing in the newspapers, many people could not even have access to the newspaper, I believe that buying a newspaper is cheaper than buying a telephone. A very big contradiction is that the very Minister of Secondary Education has banned students from using phones. And the law is that if you see a student using a phone in the school, that student should be dismissed. It will be a very big contradiction that students write examination, the very students who are banned from using phone, and they ask that they should verify their results but from the telephone. Meaning now that they have skyrocketed the cost of registering the GCE. Before registering the GCE, 20,000 francs or 17,000 francs registration, Late entry after 1 day is 50,000 francs. And now another indirect condition is that what? You must have the phone, because it is like belittling the Anglo-Saxon examination and MTN. It is like a normal promotion examination. MTN now giving the report cards to the students.
Mr. Samuel Ngube, is it a failure or an advantage, contrary to what Mr. Bogwa Julius just said?
Normally, I'm very shocked when I heard people maybe criticizing the system that the GC board has put in place this academic year. Anyway, I'm not a member of the GC board, neither a part of a GC administration, but as an educationist and the founding principal of secondary schools in Cameroon, I saw this method, an advanced method in the system of education. You know, we shouldn't just crack the way that we have to stand on the old methods that we have been using, like the newspapers that have been releasing the GCE examination previous years ago. This is a system that the GC board has tried to put in place in order that the students far from the countryside should really get their results. No matter what people might be thinking of using the telephone, I think it was not neither the MTN network only that was being used, or I think we had so many networks. We have the Orange, and we have, I don't make a publicity of any network here, but I think we had so many networks in Cameroon where students were having access of sending their SMS in the GC board in Boya, and their detailed results was given. That is one of the innovations that is being given this year, and which we had never got that before. Even when the results were published through the newspapers, we never got the detailed results of the GCE O level, neither the GCE advanced level. But this year, I encouraged the system that the GC board put in place. I wasn't with the GC board, but seeing the system, the students were able to get their results, to get their detailed results from the SMS. Okay, it is obvious that many students of these students could not maybe go through the issue. It is not only that point, not only the detailed results were got through the SMS, but we had an opportunity of many students, because in those days when the results have been published through the newspapers, only those who passed the exams, Mimi, we tell you, only those who passed the exams have been published in the newspapers. This time around, you have the detailed results of the failures and the past students.
So now, Mr. Bogwa Julius, it is an advanced method introduced by the GC board, according to Mr. Samuel Ngube, an advanced methodology introduced by the GC board. But is it timely enough for Cameroon?
I want to still believe that when we talk of advanced methodology or whatsoever, we look at the difficulties or the advantages. If you claim, I say claim, that students can easily have their results, up to now, this is first of its kind. It has never happened that 5 days after the GCE, students are still moving up and down in town, trying to trace their result. It is too difficult and too wrong. Just think of the euphoria that used to characterize the atmosphere when the GCE result is made public. The thing is not seen. Nobody feels it at all, because it has been reduced to the level of classroom examination. It may be advanced, but I want to believe that the system in place is too expensive and not even effective, because I cannot imagine that there are results that I sent using that very code 5 days after I have not been able to have the result. So I don't see the use of it. A newspaper, there are many people who buy the newspaper, they see their results, and they keep the newspaper as their archives. Posterity will come and they will still remove the newspaper and show that this was the year I wrote and this was the year that I passed. So this one, I don't believe that there is any document. It is too slow and too costly. Again, I want to say that if there are about 100 students who wrote the GCE this year, 100,000 students for O-level, A-level, general and technical. If you multiply 150 francs by 1,000 students, by 100,000 students, it will give you 15 million francs. And most of these students were sending the SMS about twice or 4 times before they can even think of having the result.
It reminds me of the MCQs that were equally introduced. I remember that before the MCQs were actually introduced, students were trained beforehand. They were told more than 1 or 2 years before. They started training students from Form 3 before getting to Form 5 to get them used to the system.
Yeah, exactly.
It's as if students were taken by surprise, Mr. Samuel Ngube.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is
and they feel like it was imposed on them by the
That is one of the negative aspects we can't draw into the issue. But as I was saying, the GC board works together with the principals of schools, with the authorities of secondary schools, and so on. I think as the negative aspect, they would have maybe organized the situation with the school, with the principals of schools, or with the directors of schools, informing them the changes that were supposed to come up. And I think parents and students were supposed to be aware of how to get the results in time. But in addition of this, please, let us know and understand that the GC's board is an organized board. No one can get the results. If somebody gets the results, maybe after 5 days, after 6 days, therefore mean that student, to me, Professor Ngube, and a founder of a secondary school institution, therefore mean that student is not registered under a GCE number. To tell you the fact, Mimi, the GCE board arranged the situation to table in all the registered students in all the centers and accommodation centers. The results were parceled and sent to these accommodation centers. So therefore, each student in his or her own accommodation center could endeavor to get his results at the moment that he or she comes over the accommodation center. But students who were near or out of the center, parents were moving in the accommodation center to get their results. So it is not a student who maybe is receiving the results after 5 days or after 4 days. It's a student maybe who stood indoors and was only waiting for the newspaper to come out. No, this time newspaper did not come out, but the GCE board arranged made all possibilities for students to have results on time. While I was bringing in my school my detailed results or my parcel for the GCE advanced or an advanced level,
but
a student had been already calling me about these results.
In enclave areas in the country are not having the opportunities that students in their school they are having, because you are teaching in a cosmopolitan town like the city of Douala. Let's look at maybe students in areas like Mesamena. I'm talking about the central region of Cameroon. I'm talking about areas like maybe Ifurawa. I'm also talking about some parts of the northern region of Cameroon, which access there is practically very difficult, and network problems too they abound. Do you think that they could also have a similar advantage?
I think exactly it is the minor case in the issue. It is a minor case in the issue, and as I was saying today, the minor case in education are not neglected. I think the GCE board, as I earlier said, I'm not a member of the GCE board, but I'm the proprietor and principal proprietor of a school. Yes, I believe that the method being put in place, if I take as an example in Europe, they don't publicize examinations. Results are not being published. Results are not being published. Results are being given individually. Results are being sent individually to students who have written those the examinations.
To Mr. Bonga Julius, you accept that it is of course an innovation, but Cameroon is not probably ready to harbor it.
And we were not prepared for it at all.
This is as a result of when we compare it decades back or some few years back when the GC results were released. We had them over the newspaper, over the radio, the complete results. It was actually a different story. Let us look at this new methodology introduced by the General Certificate of Education Board, maybe 2 to 3 years to come. Do you see it applicable?
If they actually have to take the time, and the school authorities and the students, the candidates on it, it may be positive. But the problem is there are the very students who are prevented from using phones, and you want to give their result as a report card through the phone. I believe that there is a very big contradiction between the law that the minister has passed and what they are doing. You cannot prevent me from using phone, and my report card is coming through the very phone. 2, I believe that if the print media and the voice media, they pay their taxes so that they can also have some goods that they sell. They write in the newspapers and other things, and they sell out. At the end of the day, at the time that they have what they have to sell, they are deprived of it. What is the essence of their taxes? Because, to the best of my knowledge, MTN is not a media house. And so, should not give any public information.
Professor Samangube.
I'm still doubting the situation. Let us accept the evolution of time and the people. People, I think the nations are advancing. Let us advance. The GCE had taken a very long time being released through the newspapers. I think this is a period, or this is a time that the GC board is given the chance. What I said as negative aspect is the GC board did not prepare the parents or did not prepare the students how they were supposed to get their results. But it is a positive movement. It is a positive aspect. I think these students will get prepared or will get set in many years coming ahead that they're going to have access of their results. But what I'm saying is that these students had detailed results. Every student this year had detailed results. But except you don't go to your center. Go to your center where you wrote your exams and you're going to have your results. Or you call your proprietor, or you call your principal, or you call your school's authority where you wrote your examination.
Thousands of students will be calling the proprietor at the same time.
They write under a center. They wrote under a center. Therefore, it's not possible. They wrote under a center. Even those who wrote under external centers have the number of these external centers. If you are anywhere here in the countryside of Cameroon, just you have the center number of the accommodation, or in any accommodation center or any center that you wrote an examination, you can have access in your results.
And some analysts are believing that all the mobile networks in the country were supposed to be used by the General Certificate of Education Board if they wanted the process successful. Using just a single mobile telephone company or a mobile telephone network was actually very limited compared to the...
To me, I thought the GC board wanted to test, I think, the method. They just wanted to test this method of releasing the results, and there are so many. It's the first time. I think they're going to do, through the criticisms and through many other issues that has come over the GC results this year. I think they're going to amend the situation to make sure that maybe students that not having access for telephones or telephone networks, they will get their results on time. I think it is a new method, but let us accept advancing with the time and evolution.
So you use a new method, but we should, it is just a test, like you said.
Yeah, it could be a test. It could be a test because it's the first time in Cameroon that we haven't, because I think when the results were released, the population was slumping all over the town and all over the country. I think it is the first time that the GC board is bringing in this new system of communication or communicating the results of the GCE. I think it will enable many parents and many teachers, or even teachers, or even proprietors of schools and principals of schools, to make sure that they communicate with the population, they communicate with the students, they communicate with the parents who are going to get in touch of these results as soon as they are being released next time. So it is a test, and the GC board might not have won the test, but probably next 2 years or maybe next year, let us give them the time to do it.
Finally, you are saying the GC board probably failed somehow. And to you, Mr. Bobga Julius, it is of course a test by the General Certificate of Education Board. If you were to give some recommendations, because it's like a method that has come to stay, if it's I don't know whether it's a test that for next year would see some changes, but if you were to give some recommendations, what would you?
I would say that the child has been crippled from birth. It should not live. What we are saying here is the professor is seemingly saying that it is, or only saying that it is a new method. We are not refusing. Not everything new is good. It is not everything that is new that is good. So we are trying to say that even if it was something new, they were supposed to introduce it ever since and make the people to understand. No. 2, it becomes too expensive. And this is when you will have should I call charlatans or who? Those fake school proprietors, managers, principals, they come out now and they give fake results, because now that the result is not made public,
and students are
any person will come out and claim that my school scored 70%, 80%, 90%. There will be no way to verify and know the truth of what they are saying. And those are the people who are very happy about it. There may be verifications. It is true for only for the few people who will be very honest. You cannot go to
the GC board. The GC board, every center of the GC is having a bordereau.
A bordereau.
Outlet parents should go in their GCE centers and ask for the bordereau. The bordereau are being pasted in many centers of the GCE.
So, excuse me.
In addition of it, the
They
slips,
are not.
the slips are out for every
You
student
cannot
written
come
an
looking for a
examination.
school to enroll your child there, and you begin to ask for the pile of slips to see whether the student
They are
pass or
being
not.
pasted in all the
They will
schools.
only tell you that these are private documents. I am telling you that they
No,
are
it's not a
highly
private document.
celebrating
Just
it.
It is not a private document.
But that is what they are doing.
No.
Go to many schools, they have not tested anything
No,
out. They have not tested.
No, it is
So
not a
to
private
you,
document.
to
The
you, Mr.
results are supposed
Boga,
to be
Mr.
pasted.
Boga Julius,
They are
it is-
supposed to, but they have not.
It's a method that should be cancelled once and for all.
I am saying that the child has been crippled from birth. It is
Thank
not
you
correct.
so much, Mr. Boga Julius, for joining us tonight on Talking Point, and we hope to have you some other time again.
Okay, thank you very
An
much.
educational administrator there, and also tonight we had Professor Samuel Gube. We thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us tonight on Talking
Thank
Point.
you. Thank you very much.
And to you viewers, we thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on ATV. Have a wonderful stay in the company of our programs. Good evening to you once again.